A young millionaire, late for an important meeting, saw a beggar with a baby standing in the rain and, without thinking, gave her the keys to his house. When he returned, he entered without knocking and was horrified by what he saw. On a busy day in Boston, Adam walked through the hall of one of the country's most prestigious architectural events. The splendor of the setting in stark contrast to the true purpose of the evening, though wrapped in glamour and sophistication. The event had a charitable purpose, to raise funds for an affordable housing project. Renowned architects, including Adam, had donated their designs to help turn these plans into tangible realities, giving the elite a chance to make a significant contribution to society. Even if for some it was just another chance to show off their status. Known for his extraordinary talent, Adam was as conspicuous as the works he created. Despite his apparent success, there were whispers of recent changes in his behavior, marked by the tragic loss of his young wife in an accident and the responsibility of caring for his ailing father. Some saw him as distant and reserved, but those who understood the hardships of life saw his demeanor as a way of coping with adversity. During the event, Adam met Lillian, a legendary figure in the world of architecture, admired for her vast experience and numerous achievements. "Adam, it's always impressive to see you here," she said, watching him intently. "I've heard that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to take care of your father, and that's truly commendable." "Commendable," he replied with a polite smile and a nod. Though he felt out of place in this environment of facades and frivolity, and Lillian sensed his discomfort, these events often feel superficial, but sometimes they surprise us. "What really brought you here today?" "Adam, it doesn't seem like it's just the socializing." Adam smiled sadly. "I'm here more out of obligation than desire. My life has never been just about architecture. It's been shaped by much deeper experiences and lessons I've learned from my father." He paused, his thoughts drifting to difficult times. "My father faced many hardships, but always found ways to help others. He was a simple man, but with a big heart. He raised me alone, and every sacrifice he made became a valuable lesson for me." Lillian listened intently, her face expressing deep respect. It is rare to find someone who retains those values, especially someone with the success you have achieved. "Your father must be an incredible man." "He truly is," Adam replied. A glint of pride lit Adam's eyes. "He did a little bit of everything to support us, from fixing things for the neighbors to giving private lessons. He always said that a man's greatest wealth is not in what he owns, but in what he can offer to others." Lillian nodded, understanding the depth of Adam's words. "That explains a lot about who you are, Adam, and how you conduct your life and career. Many here could learn from that." Adam smiled and thanked Lillian. "I just tried to live in a way that would make my father proud. He taught me that the true architecture of life is in building bridges between people, creating spaces of understanding and support." Lillian smiled with genuine admiration. She too had started life simple, studied hard, and reached one of the highest levels in her profession. Yet there was a sadness in her eyes because she had not started a family and kept that part of her life very private. After leaving the architecture event, Adam drove home to a place that had become more of a sanctuary than just a place to live. "How was the event, son?" he asked with an interested look. "Did they raise a good amount of money?" "It went very well despite the atmosphere of people who think they are gods because of their money. It was a success. I even spoke to Lillian about the importance of our work to society," Adam replied, sitting next to his father after the conversation. Adam got up and went to the kitchen. "I'm going to prepare some food. Anything special you want?" he called over his shoulder. "Anything is fine, son. Don't go to any trouble for me," his father replied with a grateful smile. Later, as he helped his father settle in for the night, Adam mentioned his plans for the next day. "Dad, tomorrow morning I have to leave for that meeting about the new project. I will leave everything organized here, and Mrs. Martinez promised to check on you." His father settled comfortably in bed, looking at him tenderly. "You are a good son. Adam, go do what you have to do. I'm proud of you." Mr. Robert had faced many hardships in the past. After Adam's mother left him, he took on the enormous responsibility of raising him on his own, despite financial hardship. Even after his success, he never forgot his father's struggles and sacrifices, staying by his side and caring for him with the same love and gratitude he had received as a child. The next morning, Adam awoke early and prepared for the important day ahead. He dressed meticulously, choosing an elegant suit suitable for the important meeting in a neighboring town. Confirming his plans as he walked to the car, a torrential downpour began. The driver, already familiar with Adam's route and habits, was waiting. "Looks like we're in for some rough weather on the road, Mr. Adam." Traffic in the neighboring town was chaotic due to the heavy rain. Adam's car moved slowly through the congested road. He watched the rain beat against the window, lost in thoughts of the meeting, when a scene on the side of the road caught his attention. A woman, clearly homeless, holding a newborn baby, desperately trying to protect it from the relentless rain. It was an image of desperation and vulnerability that touched Adam's heart deeply. Without hesitation, Adam said to the driver, "Please stop the car. I need to help this woman." The driver, knowing Adam's compassion for people in need, cautioned, "But Mr. Adam, you'll get wet and ruin your suit, and we have a meeting to get to." Adam resolutely replied, "I don't care about the suit or being late. This woman and her baby need help now." He opened the car door and stepped out into the rain. "Can I help you? You and your baby can't stay out here in this rain? Do you have somewhere to go home?" The woman, still surprised and shielding her daughter from the rain, quickly replied, "No, we have nowhere to go." But she did not elaborate on her situation. Adam felt an urgency to act without hesitation. He ran back to the car in the pouring rain and asked the driver to open the glove compartment from where he took out a set of keys. "Stella, this is the key to my father's house. It's close by. He's staying with me right now. So the house is empty. You can stay there with your daughter," Adam said, handing her the set of keys. "I have to go now because I'm late for a meeting, but my driver will take you there," Adam said, handing the keys to Stella. Already soaked by the rain, he informed the driver, "I'm going to walk to the meeting. Please take Stella and the child to my father's house. It's just down the road. And stop at the market and buy whatever they need. Food, clothes, diapers, anything." The driver, accustomed to Adam's acts of kindness, promptly nodded, "Of course, Mr. Adam." "Adam, I'll take care of everything." Adam's driver, after saying goodbye to him, returned to where Stella was sheltering from the rain with her daughter approaching. He kindly said, "Come, don't worry. I'll take you to a safe place. Mr. Adam wants to help you and your daughter." Stella looked at the driver with a mixture of fear and suspicion. "I don't know you. I've seen on TV what can happen. I can't just trust," she said, clutching her daughter to her chest. The driver understood her hesitation and tried to reassure her. "I understand your fear, but I assure you Mr. Adam is a kind-hearted man. He just wants to help." To show his sincerity, he opened his wallet and showed some photos of his own family. "Look, I'm a father too. I've worked with Mr. Adam for years. He's a man who truly cares for others." Stella observed the photos and the sincere expression of the driver, still cautious but feeling that this could be a real opportunity for protection and safety. She finally agreed to go with him, carefully getting into the car, sheltering her daughter from the rain while the driver took care of driving them to Adam's father's house. But first they stopped at a market to buy food and diapers for the baby. Late in the afternoon, after a long and productive meeting, Adam asked how it went with Stella and the child. "Did they arrive safely at my father's house?" The driver replied, "Yes, Mr. Adam, but I left at the beginning of the road. I thought it would be easier to maneuver the car." Adam, a little surprised by the driver's decision, gently reprimanded him. "You should have left her at the front door, especially with this rain and a small child." He paused for a moment to reflect. "But that's all right. It's been a busy day for all of us. I'll stop by tomorrow to see how they're doing and make sure they have everything they need." Adam continued as he looked out the car window, thoughtful concern for Stella and her daughter occupying his mind, but he felt he had made the right decision to help them. Upon arriving home, Adam had barely opened the door when he was greeted by Mrs. Rose, who had been looking after his father in his absence. She seemed to have some unexpected news to share with Mr. Adam. Adam was surprised at the news. He went alone, but he knows he shouldn't have. Adam began to worry about his father's health and safety. Mrs. Rose interrupted. "Yes, he went alone. He said he waited for you to leave, because he knew you wouldn't let him go like that. He seemed determined and said he felt well enough to stay alone for a few days." When Adam heard of his father's sudden decision to go to the other house where Stella and her daughter were staying, he immediately thought of the possible complications and without hesitation asked the driver to take him there urgently. As the car sped through the streets, worry growing in his chest. When Adam arrived at the house, He saw the door open and an ambulance parked outside. His heart raced as he saw his father being carried out on a stretcher. Adam ran inside, overwhelmed with panic, trying to understand what was happening. Feeling a whirlwind of emotions, relief that his father was alive, gratitude that Stella had been there, and a deep fear of what might have happened. Adam followed the stretcher to the ambulance, determined to be at his father's side. At that critical moment, still shaken, he watched as the doctor placed his father in the ambulance, and as soon as the vehicle was on its way to the hospital, he turned back to the house and searched for Stella and her daughter. Adam approached Stella and her daughter, trying to control his nervousness after the scare with his father. But the worry was still evident on his face. "Stella, I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done. The doctor thought you were my wife," Adam said, trying to ease the tension of the moment. "I did what anyone would do. I was in the right place at the right time." Adam noticed the purchases she had made and noted that they were only basic items. "I see you only bought the essentials. You could have taken more. You don't have to cut back," he commented, worried about whether she had everything she needed. Stella looked at him, a mixture of gratitude and hesitation in her eyes. There was a moment of silence during which Adam felt a deep connection with Stella. "Stella, I'd really like to know more about you and your daughter. How did you end up in this situation? If you're willing to share, I'd like to hear," Adam said, expressing his genuine desire to understand and help. Stella's side seemed to be deciding whether to open her heart. She looked at her daughter, then at Adam, and began to speak. "I never knew my mother," she began, "and I grew up with her, and I never knew her. And I grew up with a father who was more like a stranger. He drank too much and barely noticed my presence." Adam listened intently, feeling the strength in her words. "I wanted to study, but my father never allowed it. I read in secret after he slept. My father drank deeper, and I tried to help, but I couldn't. He was a hard man who mostly frightened me. Until one day I met someone," she continued. "He seemed perfect, kind. We were together for a while until I got pregnant. I was very scared at that moment, but I thought I would finally have a family," Stella said. The pain in her voice was obvious, but he left me as soon as he found out about the pregnancy. He disappeared, and I never heard from him again. I managed to hide the pregnancy for a while, but when my father found out, Stella was reluctant. He was furious. He wouldn't let me explain. I was thrown out of the house with nothing. How did you survive? I begged for money. I lived on the streets, and when my daughter was born, it was the homeless who helped me. I was scared, wary of everything and everyone, but I had to be strong for my daughter." Adam looked at Stella and saw not only the pain and fear in her expression, but also an incredible strength. "You are incredibly strong. Stella, your story is one of immense struggle." Stella smiled sadly. "I had no choice. Life wasn't kind, but I couldn't give up for my daughter. I would face it all again. I don't know how to thank you for all of this," she continued, her voice choked with emotion. "When I saw all of your father's books, I felt like I was in heaven. I love to read, but I've never had the chance to have so many books." Adam smiled gently. "You can read as much as you want, Stella. Consider them yours as well as..." He prepared to leave. Adam turned to Stella and handed her an envelope. "Here's something to help with the expenses," he said quietly. Stella looked at the envelope. Noticing the weight of the paper, she opened it carefully. "I can't accept all this," she stammered, her voice shaking. "Please take it." Adam insisted with an encouraging smile. "You need this more than I do. Buy clothes, food, everything you and your baby need." Tears welled up in Stella's eyes. "I don't even know how to thank you. You're giving me more than help, you're giving me hope." There was a moment of silence as Stella watched Adam. A thought occurred to her. "May I ask, are you married?" Adam sighed. A shadow passed over his face. "I was. My wife died in an accident just a month after our wedding. That was 3 years ago." Stella covered her mouth with her hands, surprised and saddened by the revelation. "I'm so sorry, Adam. I had no idea." "It's okay, it's been hard, but I've learned to live with it. The pain never goes away, but we learn to move on. Don't we?" Stella nodded, feeling an unexpected connection with Adam through their shared experiences of loss and struggle. Adam stood up and picked up his keys. "Well, I have to go now, but please make yourself at home here, and if you need anything at all, give me a call," Adam said to Stella sincerely. For everything, he nodded, a sad smile on his lips. Take care, Stella, and remember you are not alone with these world. He left, leaving Stella sitting wrapped in a mixture of gratitude, hope, and a newfound feeling of not being so isolated in the world. Dan returned to his home, his mind full of thoughts of his meeting with Stella and her story. The next day, he visited his father in the hospital. His father was in a stable condition, but still needed constant care. Sitting next to the hospital bed, Adam began to tell about Stella and her daughter, detailing the day he fell ill and how she had called the doctor and saved Mr. Robert, and also how difficult their lives had been. Adam's father listened attentively. His face showed signs of emotion. You have done a very good thing, son. Stella seems to be an incredible and courageous woman, he said in a weak but proud voice. I thank God for not abandoning me when I asked for the strength to raise you alone. There was a moment of comfortable silence between them, each lost in their own thoughts. Then Adam's father spoke again, looking pensive. Don't you think it would be better to bring Stella and the baby closer to us? They could stay with us. I'd like to have more life around us, and you wouldn't have to travel so far to see it. That's a good idea, Dad. I'll talk to Stella about it. I think her presence would bring more joy to our home. Adam's father smiled, excited at the possibility. It would be wonderful to have a child in the house. It's always so quiet when you work. With this new idea in mind, Adam said goodbye to his father, promising to seriously consider the suggestion and discuss it with his father. He left the hospital full of hope, thinking of the possibilities the future might hold for them all. After a long day of working on a big project, Adam was exhausted but determined. He drove to the house where Stella was staying, thinking about the proposal he had in mind. When he arrived, he found Stella tidying up some things in the living room, with the baby playing quietly on the floor. Adam started to sit down next to her. Stella looked at him curiously what was going on. Adam took a deep breath. He collected his thoughts. My house, it's big, and since my father got sick, it's been very quiet. He likes to read, and I thought since you both like to read, you could keep each other company. Also, he could help you with your studies if you want. Stella looked surprised at the proposal. You mean live in your house, me and my daughter? Yes. Adam replied. It would be great to have you and your baby there. I think your presence could be good for my father. He would feel less lonely, and you would have a safe place to stay and access to all the books you could ever want. Stella was silent for a moment, clearly thinking about the offer. That would be amazing. Adam, I don't know how to thank you. It would be a great help for me and my daughter, and I would love to be able to study more. Adam smiled, relieved and happy with her answer. Then it is decided, let's do it. I think it will be good for all of us. With a smile of gratitude, Stella accepted the offer and quickly began to gather her things. Accepting the offer, Stella quickly began to gather her and her daughter's belongings, and when they were finished, they returned to Adam's house, her heart filled with hope for the chance to study and make something of herself. As they entered the house, Stella couldn't hide her surprise. Wow, Adam, your house is incredible. You really are a talented architect, she exclaimed. Looking around in admiration, Adam smiled appreciatively. Thank you, Stella. I hope you and your daughter will be comfortable here in the days to come. Mr. Robert picked up an old book and said, This is one of my favorites from when I was younger. I think you'll like it. Stella took the book and flipped through the yellowed pages. It looks fascinating. Thank you for sharing it with me. Mr. Robert, noticing the special bond between them and Stella's devotion, decided to let Adam go. Stella had insisted on taking care of Mr. Robert when Adam was away from home, caring for him with a mixture of respect and affection, and Mr. Robert greatly appreciated her and his daughter. I really enjoy taking care of your father, Adam. He's been so kind to me and my daughter. It's the least I can do. Adam thanked her with a nod. You're already part of the family, Stella. My father and I are very grateful to have you and your daughter here as Stella. You and your daughter here as Stella settled into Adam's home. He made sure to provide her not only with a home, but also with financial independence. One day, while they were talking in the kitchen, Adam brought up the subject of Stella. I've been thinking, Adam began. I'd like to pay you a salary. You've been incredible taking care of my father in the house, and I think it's important that you have your own income. Stella looked at him in surprise. Adam, that's not necessary. You're already providing a home and everything my daughter and I need. Adam insisted. I want you to be able to buy what you need for yourself and your daughter without having to ask. Stella looked at Adam, her eyes reflecting a mixture of gratitude and melancholy. You have no idea how much your words mean to me. she began, her voice trembling with the emotional weight of years of oppression. For so long my life has been dictated by others, always someone telling me what I can and cannot do. Adam listened intently, his expression a mixture of understanding and encouragement. He leaned forward to meet Stella's gaze. I see your strength, Stella, and I believe in you more than you do right now. You're capable of so much more than you imagine. And it's time for you to start exploring that it's not just about buying things, it's about taking control of your life. I've always been afraid, she confessed, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of making choices because I've been conditioned to think I'm not capable. Every choice I didn't make was a way to keep me trapped, dependent. But you're right. Maybe this is how I'll start to feel truly free. Adam nodded, encouraging her to continue. Stella, and don't think you have to do everything alone. I'm here to support you, but the final decision will always be yours. Think of this as an opportunity to rediscover who you are, to explore what you really like, what you want for your life and for your daughter. I want that. I really do, Stella said. I want my daughter to see me as an example of strength and independence, not dependence. I want her to grow up knowing that she can make her own decisions without fear. Adam, thank you for believing in me. Adam smiled, pleased to see Stella's determination growing. Then let's get started. How about it? We'll plan some initial goals together. Small things like opening your own bank account or simply choosing something you've always wanted to buy for yourself and your daughter. Let's make every decision a step toward your complete independence. From that moment on, Stella began receiving a regular paycheck from Adam. For the first time in years, she felt what it was like to be financially independent. She could buy clothes for her daughter, pick out new books to read, and even save money for the future without feeling dependent or having to ask permission. Adam loved spending time with Hannah, Stella's baby, and they often went for walks together. During these moments, Adam shared his passion for architecture with Stella, and she was genuinely interested. Soaking up every word, Stella also dedicated herself to reading the books Adam recommended. Deepening the connection between them, the affection they shared began to grow into something deeper in her heart. One day, Adam found himself discussing his feelings with his father as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Adam confided in his father, Dad, I think I'm falling in love with Stella. It's the first time I've felt this way in years, but I don't know what to do. Adam's father looked at him with an understanding smile and said, Son, life is too short for hesitation. If you feel this way about Stella, you should tell her. What if she doesn't? You'll never know unless you try. And from what I see, the way she looks at you says a lot, his father encouraged him. Inspired by his father's advice, Adam decided to talk to Stella. That night, after tucking Hannah into bed, Stella was sitting in the living room reading when Adam approached and sat down beside her, his heart pounding, the comfortable silence broken by his soft but hesitant voice. Can I talk to you about something important? Adam began to look into her eyes. Stella put down her book and turned to face him, a thoughtful expression on her face. Of course, Adam. What is it? Adam took a deep breath and gathered his courage. I've felt something for you lately, more than just friendship. You've brought newfound happiness into my life. I care for you and Hannah more than I ever thought I would. Stella's heart raced, surprised and moved by his words. Adam, I feel something for you too. You've been incredible to us, she replied, her voice trembling. Adam took her hand. Stella, I want to be here for you, not just as a friend, but as someone who truly cares. I want to be a part of Hannah's life, to care for her as if she were my own daughter. Stella felt tears forming in her eyes. Her eyes were touched by Adam's sincerity. This means so much to me, Hannah, and I already see you as part of our family. From that night on, Adam and Stella's relationship blossomed as Stella began to attend social and professional functions with Adam. People's reactions varied. There were malicious comments circulating. Some disparagingly referred to Stella as the beggar Adam took in. At various places, people looked at her with disdain, whispering among themselves, but Adam remained indifferent to these judgments. At one such event, an elegant cocktail party at an art gallery, Mrs. Lillian, a well-known figure in Adam's social circle, approached the couple with a polite smile and greeted them. Adam, Stella, it's a pleasure to see you here. I've heard about your relationship and I want to congratulate you, she said, maintaining a cordial demeanor. Stella thanked her, a little tense under Lillian's scrutinizing gaze. There was something about the way Lillian watched her that made Stella uncomfortable. It's always a pleasant surprise to see new faces at our events. Stella, you have a very unique air about you. Thank you, Mrs. Lillian replied. Stella politely, before I forget, I would like to invite you both to dinner at my house next week. It would be a pleasure to have you, Lillian said. Adam looked at them. Both hesitated for a moment, feeling a certain moral obligation to accept the invitation. "We would be delighted, Mrs. Lillian. We accept the invitation," Adam said. Offering a polite smile, Lil seemed pleased with the answer. "Great. I look forward to having you. It will be a delightful evening until then," she said before walking away, leaving Adam and Stella alone again. As soon as she left, Adam looked at Stella. "Sorry, I thought we should accept. I hope that's okay with you," he commented. A little worried, Stella looked at him. He looked at her. She looked at him. She looked at him. "It's all right, Adam. I think it's going to be an interesting experience," she replied, trying to sound optimistic. Together, they continued to enjoy the event, although the prospect of dinner at Lillian's house lingered in their minds, mixing feelings of curiosity and caution. The day of the dinner at Mrs. Lillian's house arrived, and Adam and Stella prepared for the occasion. Upon arrival, they were struck by the beauty and grandeur of the house. As they entered, Lillian greeted them warmly and invited them to sit down. As Stella admired the interior, she could not help but notice a certain emptiness in the atmosphere. Despite its beauty, the house seemed to lack warmth and coziness. Lillian lived alone in this huge mansion, and the room did not convey the feeling of a happy home. "What a beautiful home," Mrs. Lillian commented to Stella, trying not to show her perception of the atmosphere of the place. "Thank you, Stella. I've put a lot of effort into every detail," Lillian replied with a proud smile. Lillian watched Stella attentively, an enigmatic look on her face. At one point, she began to talk about her personal life, revealing details of a troubled past. She mentioned how life had been unfair to her in her youth, leaving Adam and Stella puzzled as to the purpose of the conversation. "Mrs. Lillian, I'm sorry, but I'm a little confused. Can you explain why you invited us to dinner tonight?" Lillian sighed deeply as if to summon courage and stood up to retrieve a photo album. She opened the album and revealed a picture of herself from many years ago, visibly pregnant. Her eyes looked directly at Stella. "The child, she's here, it's you, Stella." Adam and Stella were shocked at the revelation. Stella looked at the photo and then at Lillian, trying to process the magnitude of those words. "I'm your daughter?" asked Stella, her voice trembling with emotion. The revelation that she was Stella's mother was a bombshell that left everyone at the table in a state of shock. Adam, confused, expressed his disbelief. "This seems impossible. Lily and Stella never knew their mother. How can you be sure it's her?" Her daughter Stella was still trying to process the situation, looking back and forth between Adam and Lily, unable to form words. The idea that the woman sitting across from her could be her mother was something she had never imagined. Lillian, with tears in her eyes, began to tell her story. "When I was young, I met Stella's father. He seemed like a good man. Despite his problems with alcohol, we dated and I became pregnant. But after Stella was born, he changed. He became aggressive, and the day we left the hospital, he took her away. He disappeared without a trace." Everyone at the table listened in silence. As Lillian continued, "I tried everything to find her. I hired investigators. I spent a fortune. But it was as if they had evaporated. There were no traces, no clues to lead me to my daughter." Stella absorbed every word. She felt a mix of emotions: anger at the absence of her mother in her life, struggling to understand the pain and despair Lillian had gone through. "So the man who raised me, he stole me from you?" "From you?" Stella asked, her voice trembling at the magnitude of this revelation. Lillian nodded, tears now flowing freely. "Yes, Stella. He took the greatest treasure of my life, and I have spent all these years searching for you." I felt the tension of the conversation. Stella, still stunned by the revelation, looked directly at Lillian and asked, "How can you be so sure that I am your daughter? Why only now?" Lillian replied with a look of relief mixed with pain. "When I first saw you at the event with Adam, something stirred within me, a premonition. After that day, I hired an investigator I had worked with for years to find out everything about you. The pieces began to fall into place. He finally found your father. He was drunk on the street, a shadow of the man I once knew." The investigator approached him and offered to buy him more drinks, and that is how he managed to get your father to talk. That is how he confessed everything, telling the truth about who he really was. He confessed everything, told the truth about how he took you away from me, that you never went to school, that he didn't work officially to stay hidden, that he didn't even prepare your documents, that he was completely out of his mind, living in hiding. Stella listened in silence, absorbing every word, every detail. It was as if a veil was slowly lifted from her life, revealing hidden truths she had never imagined possible. He lived a life of hiding, afraid of being found, and he kept me in that shadow with him. He lived a life of hiding, afraid to be found, and he kept me in that shadow with him, Stella said. Understanding the magnitude of what Lillian was saying, Adam looked between Stella and Lillian and expressed his amazement. It's an incredible story, hard to believe all this. With a voice choked with emotion, Stella said, I never imagined something like this could happen in my life. It's a lot to take in, Lillian agreed with tear-filled eyes. I know, my dear, it's a shock to all of us, she then added. Despite everything he did, I arranged for your father to be taken to a care facility. There he was. He has been diagnosed with schizophrenia and will spend the rest of his life there, Adam asked, trying to understand the situation. Did you do this even after everything he did to you, Stella? Lillian sighed deeply and replied, yes. After all, he is a sick person who deserves compassion. I have been very angry with him for years, but today, seeing my daughter here in front of me, the happiness I feel is overwhelming. After these revelations and emotional encounters, Stella's life changed radically. She began to visit Lillian's house regularly, and the two of them made efforts to rebuild the relationship they had lost. During one of her frequent visits to Lillian's house, Stella felt the joy of a new beginning in a moment of intimate conversation. You've always been interested in studying more, haven't you, Stella? She asked. Serving tea on the spacious porch of the house, Stella replied with a hopeful glint in her eyes, yes. I've always dreamed of studying architecture, but I've never had the opportunity. Well, I think it's time to make that dream come true. I want you to enroll in the best architecture school in the country. I'll take care of everything. Stella was speechless for a moment. Moved, would you do that for me? I don't even know how to thank you, she said, tears of gratitude forming in her eyes. Lillian reached across the table and held Stella's hand. After all we've lost, it's the least I can do. And there's more, Lillian continued. I'm building a room for Hannah here in the house. I will be there for every moment of her growth, something I've sadly missed with you. Stella, now openly crying, felt a mixture of happiness and relief. It means so much to me. Lillian, Hannah will love having a grandmother like you. In one of the many warm encounters between Stella and Lillian, the conversation took a deeply emotional turn while Hannah played in the garden. Lillian confided to Stella, my greatest dream after finding you would be to be called mother by you. And Stella, touched by Lillian's words, responded sincerely, you already do so much, Lillian. I appreciate every gesture, and I'm sure we will become even closer as time goes on. Their relationship grew naturally and organically. Stella made regular visits to Lillian's house, where Hannah loved to be. The little girl felt completely at ease in Lillian's presence. Her laughter filled the house with joy, creating a family atmosphere that had long been missing from Lillian and Stella's lives. Several years passed, and as Stella's architecture studies neared completion, the big day of graduation finally arrived. Having faced many challenges and overcoming much adversity, she was about to celebrate a significant milestone. As she walked down the aisle to the stage, Stella felt a mixture of pride and gratitude. Her eyes scanned the audience, looking for three special people: her husband, who had always supported her unconditionally; her father-in-law, who had become a constant father figure in her life; and of course, Lillian, her biggest supporter in architecture. I am here today not only because of my own efforts, but also because of the invaluable support of some very special people, she said, her voice full of emotion as she continued. My husband, who has always stood by my side and encouraged me to achieve my goals; my father-in-law, who has welcomed me as a daughter and given me strength in difficult times. Then her eyes found Lillian and she paused for a moment before saying, and of course, my dear mother, Lillian. Mom, you gave me more than a chance to study. You gave me a home, love, and the family I always wanted. Stella's words touched everyone deeply, but especially Lillian, who could not hold back her tears. She covered her face with her hands, moved to hear the word mother from Stella. When Stella finished her speech, Lillian was visibly moved. Tears streamed down her face. Stella's words calling her mother touched her heart in a way she had never experienced. She felt a wave of love, gratitude, and a deep sense of fulfillment. The years of searching, the pain of separation and uncertainty had finally given way to a moment of pure joy and connection. After the ceremony ended, Lillian approached Stella, Away from the hustle and bustle of the graduation ceremony, tears shimmered in Lillian's eyes as she began to speak. Her voice choked with emotion. "My dearest daughter, for so many years my heart was incomplete. A vital part of me was lost. I always knew deep down that this day would come. The day I could finally see you grow. See the incredible woman you have become." The incredible woman you have become. Stella was still absorbing the intensity of the moment, listening intently. Clasping her mother's hands between her own, Lillian continued, "When you were taken from me, a somber silence took over my life. I fought every day, not only to find you, but to keep the flame of hope alive. And today, to see you here as a graduate, so strong and radiant that hope has become reality." There was a softness in Lillian's voice as she spoke of the years of separation. "All those years I imagined what it would be like to hold you in my arms, what it would be like to hug you again, to touch your face, to laugh and cry with you. I missed so many moments, so many milestones that a mother should share with her daughter. But when I look at you now, I see that every tear and every prayer was worth it. You are my miracle." "Stella, Stella, Stella," Stella whispered, moved by the depth of her mother's words. "Mom, I missed you every day. Even without knowing who you were, there was an emptiness, a space that nothing could fill until today." Lillian nodded, her own emotions reflected in her daughter's eyes. "I know, my daughter, and no matter how many years we lost, nothing could fill it. I know, my daughter, and no matter how many years we lost, we will make new memories together. Life has given us a second chance, and I will be here for every step you take." The two embraced tightly, a hug that sealed years of distance and cemented their relationship. "You completed me in a way I never imagined possible," Lillian whispered to Stella as she looked at Lillian. Replied, "Mom, you showed me the true meaning of family and love. I am so grateful for everything." They left the graduation ceremony, hand in hand, feeling renewed and filled with hope for the future. Their story was a testament to the fact that motherly love transcends all barriers and that a mother never gives up on her child, no matter what life throws at them. If you enjoyed this story, I encourage you to show your appreciation by hitting the like button and become part of our community by subscribing to the channel. Thought-provoking story right now on your screen. We truly appreciate your support. See you soon.